The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a ghost of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers.
My name is James Hershey. Right back.
All these shadows in my mind. My reflection I can't find. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a
That ought
ghost
to do
of
it.
you and me. Of you and me. Don't let 'em take you away. Don't let 'em bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let 'em bring you down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, Old Boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. And how is everybody doing tonight?
On tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about zombies, and more specifically, how to survive a zombie apocalypse. Now, right off the bat, you might think, okay, this is an entertaining idea, and I'm sure it's going to be a fun show, but come on, man, a zombie apocalypse, really? I mean, what are the odds of that actually happening? You know, that's kind of fantasy life. Realistically, a zombie apocalypse could be possible. Now, we're not going to get into all of the history of zombies and all that kind of stuff on this show. We'll do another show on zombies where I talk about, voodoo and I talk about all that kind of stuff. But there are a couple of actual medical diseases which can cause conditions that resemble being a zombie. The first of these is rabies. Now, when human beings contract rabies, a lot of times they become kind of crazy. They start frothing at the mouth, they can't think properly, they become violent, they get nuts. So a mutated form of rabies could possibly create zombies. If enough people get bit and contract the rabies, then they could also become zombies. Now, it would have to mutate a little bit because you would have to have it speed up. The amount of time it takes to actually contract the disease and cause you to become symptomatic would have to be quicker. Another mutation this thing could take, which a lot of diseases do, is to become airborne. If a rabies virus was to become airborne and the rate of becoming symptomatic would speed up, then you're talking full-scale zombie apocalypse. Another condition that is actually in existence today that very well could cause a zombie apocalypse is VCJD. Now, what VCJD is a lot of people call that human mad cow disease. In that disease, it's pretty much 100% fatal. Okay, if you get it, you're pretty much a goner. There is a variant of human mad cow that can cause a person to go violently insane, and it's spread to other people through blood, much the way AIDS is spread through blood. With that case, you could potentially, through bites, you could potentially spread this disease to other people. If this disease mutated and became airborne, or it mutated and the rate of infection and the amount of time it took to become symptomatic was to speed up, then you would also have a full-scale zombie apocalypse. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, that's a lot of ifs, but you need to realize that diseases mutate all the time. That's why doctors tell you not to take too many antibiotics. Because if you take antibiotics unnecessarily, or you do not use your entire prescription of antibiotics, and you only use part of it, and then the thing that you're trying to kill doesn't die and it just gets stronger, what happens is they become resistant to antibiotics. And then eventually you'll get to the point to where antibiotics will no longer work. That is a form of a mutation. Diseases also mutate all the time and become airborne. You see this with a lot of different things. The rate of infection will change through mutation. So what we're talking about here is not something that is unheard of. It's not a far-fetched idea, and it's definitely not beyond the realm of possibility. It could absolutely happen. So let's say that one of these things has happened, or a whole different disease that we've never heard of has happened. Okay, it hits, and all of a sudden you have a zombie apocalypse. Now it's not going to be like it is in the movies, really, where one day everything's fine and then all of a sudden there's zombies everywhere. What's going to happen is you're going to have small little groups. It'll start small and it'll spread and it'll grow. And most likely mankind will try to isolate these people, quarantine them, and stop the spread of the infection like that. But let's say this is a worst case scenario situation. All hell is broken loose and you have a full-scale zombie apocalypse on your hands. In that case, the question is, how do you survive it? When you're dealing with a survival situation, and just so everybody knows, I am a survival guy myself. I'm one of those guys that you can literally drop off anywhere in the world with a knife and I can survive. You don't even really need to give me a knife because I know how to do flint knapping, so I can make my own knife out of stone if I need to. You can pretty much drop me off anywhere in the world with just the clothes I'm wearing, and I will survive. So when I'm giving you these steps and talking about this stuff, you can be rest assured that you can take this information to the bank. Okay, I'm a guy that knows what he's talking about. I live out in the mountains. I have spent months alone in the swamps. I know how to survive. So whenever you're dealing with a survival situation, you want to, first of all, you want to start with the rules of three. Okay, now what the rules of three are is basically that you're dead in 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Okay, that's what they call the rule of threes. So you're going to make supplies your absolute first priority in the case of a zombie apocalypse. Now, obviously, if there's a zombie on top of you, your first priority is to not get eaten by that zombie. Okay, you need to get safe. But when you have a chance to sit there and assess, supplies are going to be your absolute first priority. Now, using the rule of threes, you want to go through your zones of assessments. Now, what your zones of assessment are zones around your person that you go through a complete inventory and assessment of. You start with zone 1. Zone 1 is your immediate body. Okay, what do you have on your immediate body that will meet the needs of the rule of threes? What do you have that will provide you with air? Your lungs. What do you have that will provide you with shelter? Okay, your clothes are a form of shelter because they are protection against the elements. What do you have that will provide you with water? Do you have water? Do you have some sort of drink? Do you have a soda bottle on you that can be a container to use for water? Do you have a canteen? Do you have something that can be used to purify water, such as a lighter, matches, iodine tablets, water purification tablets, a survival straw, anything like that? And what do you have on your person that will provide you with food? Do you have any food on you? You know, do you have a candy bar in your pocket? Do you have a bag of nuts or something? Do you have a backpack on? In that backpack, do you have food? Are you carrying any weapons? You know, all these things are assessments that you need to go through in zone 1. Once you finish zone 1, you move on to zone 2. Zone 2 is your immediate surroundings, your immediate area within 5 or 10 feet of you. You run through that same list again, the same checklist again, and you inventory everything that's around you. Zone 3, you move out a little further, etc. Okay, until you've covered the area you're in. That's how you decide what you have and what you need. Okay, now you're also going to want to stay close to home. Now, in zombie movies, this never happens. In zombie movies, they always take off. You know, if you're a Walking Dead fan, you know that they've been all over the place. You know, they've set up different compounds and they always end up losing it and they go to another one. In movies like Zombieland, they're constantly on the move. In reality, in a real situation, the very best place for you to be is going to be at your home. Because at your home is where you're going to have all of your stuff, all of your supplies, all of your weapons, all of your ammunition. Everything you're going to need to survive is going to be right there at the house. So you're going to want to try to fortify that place the best you can. Now, whenever you're talking about fortifying something, you need to know what you're fortifying it against. When you think of zombies, you think of Night of the Living Dead. Okay, you think of the slow, dead-eyed, kind of zombies, right? Okay, stop thinking about that, because that's not what it's going to be. If you have a real zombie apocalypse, in reality that happens, it's going to be some form of a disease that has mutated to cause people to act crazy. So if that happens, you're not going to be dealing with these slow zombies from Night of the Living Dead. You're going to be dealing with hyped up, crazy fast, running madmen zombies, okay? These people are not going to be dead people that have risen to life, okay? They're going to be actual alive people that are infected, that have lost their sanity. That's what you're going to be dealing with. So you have to expect regular speed, strength, all that stuff, maybe even stronger than usual. Because a lot of times when somebody is infected with something like rabies, they're a lot stronger than they usually are, and a lot faster, and they're just really, really psychotic. So keep that image in mind when you're thinking about fortifications. So in other words, just putting up barricades in the way, just things, obstacles for them to have to move around. If you're dealing with the George Romero Night of the Living Dead kind of zombie, that works because they're not going to be able to find their way through that maze. If you're dealing with a 28 Days Later kind of zombie that can run and jump and climb, it's a whole different ball of wax. You really need to be a little bit more careful with your fortifications. So I would suggest thinking about it, instead of zombies, think about trying to fortify your home against a roving band of people. Because in all reality, that might just be what you're dealing with. Is instead of zombies, they might not even be what you have to worry about in a zombie apocalypse. The most dangerous thing in a zombie apocalypse, honestly, might be other people. Because everybody's going to be looking for supplies. Okay, the very first thing I talked about. That's the most important thing. So everybody's going to be looking for it. Everybody's going to want water. Everybody's going to want food. Everybody's going to want medicine. Those kind of supplies. And they're all going to go to the normal places to get them. Okay, everybody's going to hit Walmart and Costco and Target and Kmart and the local grocery stores. That's where they're going to go first. So that's my next rule to survive a zombie apocalypse, is stay the hell away from Walmart and places like that. Yes, there may be supplies there, but you might very well die there, because there's also going to be other human beings there that also want those supplies, and they are going to be willing to kill you to get them, because it doesn't matter what kind of person you are. You could be the nicest guy in the world. You could be a preacher, but if your baby is starving, you'll kill somebody to feed it. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If you got a kid at home and they're hungry and somebody gets in your way from grabbing that last can of peaches or whatever it is, there's going to be a fight, and there might be a death over that can of corn or peaches or potted meat or tuna fish or whatever. So in that kind of situation, it's better to be prepared ahead of time. Okay, what you ought to be doing now, before a zombie apocalypse, is preparing. Not just for a zombie apocalypse, but for severe storms, for the fall of a government, anarchy, for a loss of power, some kind of EMP attack, all that kind of stuff. You should have as much food and water on hand as possible. Now, when you do that, you're going to want to concentrate on stuff that will not go bad. Okay, we're talking bags of rice. We're talking bags of dried beans. We're talking pastas. Okay, now pastas will go bad after several years, but they're very, very cheap and easy to replace. Okay, even canned goods are acceptable, but they won't last as long. If you go with the dehydrated stuff like the beans and the rice, that'll last most of your lifetime, if not your entire lifetime, depending on how old you are. I mean, they have bags of beans and rice that have been vacuum sealed, dehydrated and vacuum sealed, and they've been opened up 50 years after they were put away, and they're still perfectly edible. There's other things that, like honey, for example. Honey is edible forever. It never goes bad. Sugar doesn't go bad. Salt doesn't go bad. They have found honey in Egyptian tombs that was put there when the tomb was first sealed up back in ancient Egypt, and it is still perfectly edible today. That's amazing. So honey does not go bad. Another thing you can be doing is making hardtack. Hardtack will last your entire lifetime. If you don't know what hardtack is, it is the very thick, very hard, like crackers that they used in the Civil War. They've really used throughout time, a bunch of different countries, a bunch of different wars. It's something that it was used back in the olden days to survive on, basically, as trail food or as food to help get you through the winter. And all hardtack really is, honestly, is flour, water, and salt. That's it. If you want to know how to make it, go to the YouTube channel. I have a video that I've made on how to make hardtack. It's very simple. You can learn the recipe, learn how to do it, and you can be prepared. But that's what you need to be doing, is preparing now. And you also need to be putting back water, because you can't rely on the fact that you can turn on your faucet and water comes out. Because in a zombie apocalypse situation, you got to think people are not going to be operating the power plant. They're not going to be operating the water purification plant. Those people aren't going to be there anymore. So it will not be very long until your lights go out and your water no longer turns on. So just because you have a faucet in your kitchen that you can turn on and get water out of does not mean in a zombie apocalypse that it's going to work and any water is going to come out. And remember your rules of 3. You can only live 3 days without water. So you got to make sure you have plenty of it. This is easy to do, especially if you have a faucet that pours water, which pretty much everybody in America, unless you're homeless, has. All you have to do is buy barrels. You can buy the food grade plastic 55-gallon drums for not a whole lot of money at all. I mean, you can buy them on Amazon, you can buy them online. They're very cheap. And you can just fill those up with water and seal them up and put them away and forget about them. Put them in your garage, put them in your basement, whatever, and just forget about them. As many as you can put down there and fit, you're great. And then you have a water supply. That's going to be important for drinking. It's also going to be important for rehydrating your dehydrated food, all of those things. And then when you use up that barrel of water, you can use it to collect rainwater, which will replenish your water supply, which is a wonderful thing. Now, they say 3 days without water, but anybody who actually has ever done survival and been out in a real situation knows that's not a real number. Yes, in 3 days you will be dead without water, but after a day and a half, you're going to be pretty much useless without water anyway. The last day to a day and a half is spent dying, pretty much. At that point, you're either unconscious or you're almost unconscious, and your organs are starting to shut down, and you're not gonna be good for anything at that point. After the first 24 hours without water, you're suffering from muscle spasms, you're suffering from severe headaches, disorientation, confusion, sometimes blurred vision, loss of equilibrium. So you're not in a good way after 24 hours without water. By the time you get to 48 hours without water, you're lucky if you can even get up. Because at that point, you're vomiting uncontrollably. You are just in misery with cramping and with a headache. And you really don't know who the hell you are anymore or what's going on. You're so confused because of not having the water. So that is super important, guys. I can't stress that enough. And in a zombie apocalypse, you're going to be surprised, because if this ever actually happens, or if a situation happens with an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse, which will fry all the electronics, or just a collapse of the government, something like that, you're going to be amazed how many people are going to die within the first week just from not having water or from being exposed to the elements. It's going to be horrible. Another thing you got to make sure of is medications. This is obviously your prescription medications. If you take any, make sure you have some, because you're going to run out. But this is also things like inhalers. It's also things like, antibiotics, super important. But even just Tylenol and ibuprofen and stuff like that. All of those things are important. You're going to want to have anti-diarrhea medicine on hand. Because if you're in a survival situation where you cannot hydrate as much as you need to hydrate, you definitely do not want to have diarrhea, because then you're losing massive amounts of water that you just can't replenish. So that's super important. So medications are important. Also, first aid supplies are important. Some sort of first aid kit that will have bandaging, will have Band-Aids, splints, that kind of thing in it. Hygiene items, another very, very important thing. Now, you might think, well, what's so important about that? It's a zombie apocalypse. Who cares? Have you ever watched Walking Dead? Daryl looks like he hasn't bathed in like 10 years. Doesn't matter. But in reality, it does matter. I don't care what your hair looks like in a zombie apocalypse, but your hands better damn well be clean. Because when your hands get dirty, that's when infections happen, okay? Your hands touch everything. Everything you eat, they rub your eyes, everything. If you end up with a cut and your hands are dirty and you touch it, big trouble. So things like soap, towels, hand sanitizers, that kind of stuff, very, very important. You got to keep your hands clean. And then you have your utility supplies. These are things like batteries. Batteries are great for, for using for walkie-talkies, for using for flashlights, all kinds of things like that. A good knife is super important in any survival situation. A can opener is a good thing to have. If you don't have a can opener, that's not the end of the world. Because cans, even ones that don't have the pull tab things, are easily opened without a can opener. Now you might think you're crazy. I had to sit there and pound on it with a knife for an hour. Don't have to at all. Here's a neat little trick for opening up any can. Doesn't matter. Take the can, and there'll be a top and a bottom to the can, okay? The top of the can, you're going to want to turn it over so the top of the can is facing down. Then simply go over to a piece of concrete, whether it's a sidewalk, the street, whatever, and just rub it around very quickly on the concrete for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. Just keep rubbing. Then pick it up, turn it back over, and try the top. It should pop right off, no problem. Because what it is it's sealed to the top of that can. And what you're doing is you're actually melting the wax that causes that seal when you're doing that through friction, and it'll pop right off. You don't have to have a can opener, but a can opener makes it a lot easier. So if you have one, great. Matches, lighters, those kind of things. Very important. Also in that category would be all your different weapons. If you want to have an axe, a sword, a bat, a gun, whatever. All those things are important. Not just against zombies, but against the people that are going to be trying to steal your stuff. Next thing, you got to be physically fit, guys. Too many of us sit down all day long on the couch, and we do nothing. In a zombie apocalypse, you're going to have to run, okay? Best case scenario, you get to stay in your home, and you have a little fortified area where you can fight them off. But if you ever have to leave there for supplies, or let's say your house gets overrun by people or whatever, and you have to make a run for it, you got to be able to run, okay? You got to be able to run more than a block without having to stop and catch your breath. Because in a situation like a zombie apocalypse, man, you got to be able to get away. If you're out of shape, you're out of luck, pretty much. You're going to die. So that's very important. Get in good physical shape. Next thing is just basically no first aid. You don't have to know how to do a heart transplant, but you got to at least know how to stop bleeding. You got to know CPR. You got to know those kind of things. The basics, how to set a broken bone. This isn't going to be used against zombies, really, obviously, but it'll be used for yourself and for other people in your group. Whether it's your family or whether you have a group of friends, or maybe it's just a group of your neighbors or something. Knowing basic first aid, very, very handy in that situation. Now, if you do end up face to face with a zombie and you're forced to fight, always aim for the brain. I'm not saying that because that's the lore of zombies, although it is. I'm saying that because no matter what the creature is, whether it is a undead zombie that has been raised back through voodoo and magic and that kind of thing, or whether it is some crazy person which has been infected with the human mad cow virus or rabies virus or something like that, and is just absolutely crazy and trying to kill you. Or if it's just a random person that is trying to take your supplies, if you take out the brain, you take out the thing. No matter what it is, it dies if you take out the brain. So that's why I say aim for the brain always. Because you don't want to be shooting in the body, because if it is somebody that is out of their mind and psychotic because of a disease, they might not stop. You can take a lot of damage to the body and keep coming. We see that with people that are on PCP, where they get shot 20, 30 times before they finally fall dead. That's because the body can absorb a lot of punishment before it just stops working. What normally stops a person is a combination of pain and fear. Now, if you're psychotic and you're out of your mind because of this disease, you are no longer afraid, and you're really not feeling that much pain anymore because you're kind of out of it. So you're going to have to physically stop them. You're going to have to make it so the body doesn't work anymore. The best possible way to do that is take out the brain. Always go for a headshot. Now, I talked earlier about the first aid stuff, and it might be useful for members of your group. And that's the last thing I'll say about about how to survive a zombie apocalypse is find a group of people that you can trust. Okay, you don't want to try to make friends with people after it happened, because at that point, anything goes. I'm trying to survive, you're trying to survive. If I got to screw you over a little bit in order to survive and feed my family, yeah, that's what happens. You're not going to be able to trust everybody. But if you have neighbors, then you can make a plan with those neighbors. And you don't have to sound like a crazy person. You don't have to say, hey guys, look, if a zombie apocalypse happens, I'd really love it if we could all team up and be some kind of cool death squad, right? I'm not talking about that. Just make a plan for any kind of emergency situation. Whether it is some kind of military attack, whether it is a fall of society, whether it is severe weather, such as flooding or, bad hurricanes or tornadoes or something, or whatever. And you can even throw zombie apocalypse in there with the other list of things if you want when you're talking about it with them. And just say, I just want to have a little group here that if stuff goes south and everything's falling apart, that we're all going to work together. That would be a great, great idea to do now with your neighbors. Just have a basic understanding with your neighbors. I live, like I was saying, in the mountains down here in the south. So my neighbors aren't very close to me as far as location, distance apart. There's a little bit of ways in between us because I got a lot of land. But I know the people that live around me. And I know in a situation like a zombie apocalypse, we're going to be able to survive because we can come together for security to fight off anybody that comes. We can share with each other because we all hunt, we fish. I have orchards. We have plenty of land. We can grow crops. I have walnut trees, pecan trees. I grow my own gardens. So there's plenty of food to be shared between us all. So what one lacks, another can provide. And then you can get something from them that you don't have. So that is a very good idea. Because the idea that you're going to survive a zombie apocalypse all by yourself, just running around and hiding, it's not a reality. It's not realistic. It's just not. Even somebody like me, who is close to an expert, I would say, in survival. I'm very good at it. I've done it my entire life. I also hold a master rank in Kung Fu. I had a self-defense school. I actually taught self-defense. I can fight very well. I'm amazing with a bow. I'm amazing with a sword, a staff, chucks. I'm good with a gun. I'm always carrying one. Even somebody like me is going to have a very hard time surviving in a zombie apocalypse kind of situation. The reason for that is there are so many threats all around you all the time. Because not only do you have to worry about zombies everywhere, but you also have to worry about all the other human beings. And in a lot of cases, all the other human beings are more dangerous than the zombies. Because at least with the zombies, you know what you're going to get. They're going to kill you and they're going to eat you. Period. It's that simple. So anytime you see a zombie, you instantly know, okay, that's a threat. I have to destroy it or I have to escape it. One of the two. With human beings, it's not that simple. You don't know whether they are a threat or whether they are not a threat. And even if you try to stay to yourself to survive, eventually you're going to get yourself in a situation where you can't get away. Eventually there's going to be too many people after you or too many zombies after you. And if you don't have somebody that'll watch your back, you're going to be in trouble. Because no matter how tough you are, no matter how good you are, eventually you got to sleep. And once you go to sleep, you're defenseless. And anything can get you. No matter how well you fortify things, somebody can potentially get through while you're sleeping. So it always helps to have somebody that will have your back. Now, also a little bit of knowledge would be good on not only primitive survival and stuff like that, but also a little bit of knowledge on the zombies themselves. Now, this unfortunately can't really be gained unless you know what you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a variation of rabies, then you have to understand how rabies works and some of the weaknesses of rabies. One of those things is water. People who have rabies avoid water like the plague. They hate water. The reason for this is it causes constriction of the throat and makes it almost impossible to swallow. That's why there's all that foaming at the mouth going on. Because the person is having such trouble swallowing, it causes them to foam. Now, because they are having such trouble swallowing, they instinctually are afraid of water and avoid it. So if you're dealing with a zombie apocalypse that has stemmed from some sort of mutation of the rabies virus, then it's a pretty good bet that water will provide safety. So if you are out on a boat somewhere, you're going to have a pretty good chance of being safe from zombies. But you're going to kind of be a sitting target for people. So there's a give and a take there. But a lot of times that knowledge you can't really use until you know what you're dealing with. And if you lose power and you lose communications, then there's a good chance you're not going to know right away why the zombies are zombies or what even is going on. As far as you know, the world has just gone to crap. So if you follow those guidelines and those little rules and steps, you'll have a pretty good shot at surviving a zombie apocalypse, at least for a little while. Nobody can really be sure to survive forever because you never know what's going to happen. You're in the middle of a world that's falling down around you and everything's trying to kill you. So every day is a blessing in that situation, I think. But I'm going to throw over to Old Boy now and let him talk about zombies a little bit.
Thank you, brother. And I really enjoyed that because it's pretty much true what you're saying. And trust me, guys, I'm not going to get into the whole zombie thing because it's one of my favorite horror movies is the zombie, how they, come alive and eat people. But see, what you didn't also talk about is it's not just rabies and because of diseases. It also can be chemical by drugs. Bath salt and then spice is another drug that's going on that actually turn people, in PCP, turns people, basically, if you guys seen 28 Days Later, that not all zombies eat you. They want to just kill you because they're out of their mind. And that was started by a monkey, and it turned into like a rabies, like a super rabies, like James said. But spice and bath salt can make you lose your mind exactly the same way. There's been numerous accounts of it. People running like right into glass, their heads in glass, just it doesn't even they just don't feel no pain. So basically, if you're going against something like that, it's not really like you see in movies where they're coming at you, they're barely walking slow like Night of the Living Dead. They're running after you like 28 Days Later. And if you guys seen the remake of Dawn of the Dead, they're running after you, even they're eating people. But seeing 28 Days Later, they're just killing people. They just beat you to your dead. So in that situation, like James said, you can watch as many as movies as you want. You better know a couple people. You can't do this all by yourself. It's not going to last. Eventually, you're going to have to sleep or you're just going to get overtaken because it doesn't matter how good you are. You against 100 people is not going to happen. And most of the time, what you need to realize of what you got to worry about is not really the zombies or the things trying to kill you. It's the people trying to steal your surprise and kill you for that. Because most people think if you're alive, you're taking more supplies, the better off you're dead. And they're not coming to just be your friend. Most people are coming to steal your stuff. And remember, people can pretend to be your friend at first and then betray you and kill you while you sleep. So you got to remember that too. A lot of people make this mistake that if I have a group of people, I'm safe. You're right, but you better know them. But even if you know them, like you said, if it's somebody, some people have this thing, that they can't handle their loved ones turning into something. Say they turned into a zombie. The problem is they don't want to kill the zombie because they still think that's that person. They can't get over it. You also got to worry about stuff like that. If they bite you, and they bite somebody and they turn into zombies and their loved one doesn't want to kill the zombies because they still can't get over the fact that that's not them, then you got to think of what should you do about that situation. And how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to kill that person because they're trying to keep you from living because they can't get over their Uncle Tom turned into a flesh-eating zombie, or their wife Marge turned into a zombie and they can't handle the fact that and they go stupid and get crazy? You also got to put that in and think about that. People can't handle their loved ones turning into zombies sometimes, and that becomes an issue also. So you guys got to think that if you're trying to survive a zombie attack, you got to trust that person or to people, and you better hope that they have the right supplies. You got to remember, you don't want too many people because you got to survive too. You can't give all your supplies up. Now, I guess if you're growing stuff like garden stuff like that, and you have people who have a water hole or a water, what do they call them? Water well, then that's somebody you want to keep around. You want somebody who knows how to use vehicles like flying. Like if you ever see people come across like a helicopter, or like one of those little small planes that knows how to fly a plane and open big machinery. Because you got to get around. You can't drive around your VW Bug, that's not going to work. You have to reinforce stuff. You get like a big truck or something and get it all reinforced and stuff like that. You ever seen the movies? They do that, and they put like spikes and blades and barbed wire everywhere and places where you can shoot. But you have to have something stable where nothing's just going to get into it. You can run over things in like a diesel truck or like a big bus, something like that you're going to use, not like a little Honda. Maybe if you're like trying to get point A to B, but like if you're trying to go around, you're probably going to want to build something from an attack, because you're also going to get attacked by other people that have guns. They might have their own version of whatever they made, their human-made tanks. That's what I call them. They could attack you too. You got to be, you got to protect yourself at all time. You don't know what's coming at you. It's either going to be zombies or people who are not zombies are probably the worst thing you got to worry about, because see, you never know if they're good or bad or what they're really up to. They could just cut your neck while you're sleeping at night. Like you said, you have to sleep, so you're going to have somebody watch your back. And the other problem is if you have loved ones, this becomes another issue, because you don't want to see nothing of your family die, but you also got to worry about yourself and whoever's around you. So it becomes another problem. You got to worry about your loved one, your family, your kids, your daughter, your spouse, your ex, your grandmother, your mother, your grandfather, your father. You got to make sure they survive too. If something happens to them, are you going to be willing to kill them if they turn into a zombie, a flesh-eating monster that's going to kill you if you don't do something? See, there's where like The Walking Dead shows that, like they show that there's zombies you got to worry about, but you also got to worry about the people around you and other people coming after you. And not everybody's nice. There's some people who just kill you. They don't tell you why. They just want to kill you because they're better off surviving with less people. You got to remember that. A lot of people forget about that. They think, oh, it's just zombies. That's all I got to worry about. And other people stealing my supplies. That's not always true. Think about it. You got murderers, killers in jail. If they get out, they're still not going to stop killing people. There's still going to be crazy people running around, murderers, people surviving, and they instead of letting you live, they just might as well kill you because it's easier that way. And especially if you're a woman, you really got to watch out. I don't want to get into that, but you know what they're going to do. You got to be careful of that too. You got to be careful altogether. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, because you can be taken advantage of anyway. Not just saying for women, but you got to worry about that too. So there's a lot of things you got to worry about. And if it becomes a thing like 28 days later, it's not like zombies. You can just go run away. They're running all over the place. You actually got to find some way of trying to keep these guys from getting you, because they're not going to stop. Like if you've seen that movie, like they flip out and just blood gets on you, and if it gets in your face or your eyes or anything, or get cut, you turn into it in like five less than like a minute or two. So it's going to be harder if it's something like that, because a zombie you can outrun. Even if there's 20 of them, you can fight them off, but you can't outrun somebody 28 days later, like 50 people running after you at once. They're superhuman strong. They can rip things up. They'll tear your base apart too. Like he was saying, you got to make sure they don't break into whatever you got barricaded, and whatever kind of weaponry you have. You better have a lot of it, because you can't just hold off 20 people by yourself. They're going to keep coming and coming. They're not just going to stop going, like you see the stupid movies and you hit the zombie and he falls on the ground, the cheesy 80 movies. That's not going to how it's going to work. It's going to be different. And if it is the living dead, it's going to be even harder, because you got to shoot them in the head. You can't just shoot them in the face. And like in the face, they'll still survive. You got to shoot them exactly in the head, blow their brain off or cut their head off. And shooting them in the arm, that doesn't do anything. They come after you, they keep coming. So then that becomes another problem. So it matters what you're going to do in that situation, how you're going to survive. My personal opinion is I can survive myself. I've learned a little bit of it. I know how to make fires. I know how to use stuff. Like he was telling you how to make certain stuff. There's other things you can use. You can use Vaseline, and you can wrap like a Q-tip or a used match or a match. It hasn't been used, and wrap it up. And you could start it on fire with a tissue around it, dipped in the Vaseline, and it will start a fire almost every time, because it's chemicals that catches on fire. People don't get that. Just like crayons, you can light crayons and they'll last for about 5 or 10 minutes. The big crayons, not the little ones. Even the little ones last for a couple minutes, but it has chemicals that will catch fire. It's a chemical fire. People don't get that. There's other things you can do, but those are two little things you guys might want to think about. You also can make, like he says, a bug out bags. That he has this thing on. He did an episode, like 5-minute episode about bug out bags. But you can get, those, and I can't say the name, Altoid mints, and they have almost a little tin. Well, you can make a little bug out that the people don't even just put stuff in there. You can put like your personal stuff there, like a $20 bill, fishing line, hooks. You can pack a little, and you'd be. This is crazy. You can even put like Q-tips, just little things in this little tin. Even like money, people don't. You might even need like a 20 or something. Like you put $100 away, and you can put like like a little like flint in there. You can put other things in there, but just to survive, like string, because you never know what's gonna rip. You might have to stitch somebody up, put some needles in there, thin and needles, so you can stitch. You might get your arm split open. You have to stitch it up. You never know. But those are little things you can do. But if I was in the zombie apocalypse, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm one of these people. Like, I need people around me. That's true. But I'm kind of like James. I'm not going to trust everybody. And if you get in my way, I'll kill you. Family or not, I'll do it. I mean, if I have to, not if if it's a zombie apocalypse and you turn on me, and then too bad on you. That's your mistake. Or if you're a zombie, I don't care if you're my Aunt Ruth or my grandfather. I'm going to shoot you if you're a zombie. I'm not going to hesitate. That's all I got to say about that. There you go, James.
One thing that is a common misconception is that there's going to be some kind of Mad Max style gigantic truck going around with armor plating and all this stuff that is going to be the perfect zombie killing machine. The reality of that situation is, in a real life situation like this, where you have an outbreak of some sort of disease that causes like a zombie apocalypse or something, gas is going to be gone very quickly, within a day or two. It'll all be gone. There will be plenty of gas at the gas stations. The problem is you can't get it out of the ground into your car, because when the electricity goes away, you can no longer pump the fuel into your car, because it takes a pump to pull it up from underground. So very quickly, cars will be useless. If you have somebody that has a engineering background or a great deal of mechanical knowledge, then you might have a chance. Germans in World War II, they used something called a gasifier in order to run their vehicles when gasoline was in short supply. What a gasifier is basically is a device that they built where they burn things. Wood, garbage, whatever. And they take the fumes that come off of that, the gases, and they funnel it into the engine to run the car. What you've essentially created with a gasifier is a very large and very dangerous bomb. If it is not built correctly, it will explode and it will kill you and a lot of people around you. If done properly, it is an almost endless supply of fuel for your vehicle. As long as you have something to burn, that vehicle will move. So if you do see vehicles going down the road, it will be things like that. Okay, it'll be the gearheads that know about the gasifier, that have figured out how to build it correctly, and that's what will still be moving. The idea that everybody's going to get in a car and go do something, it's just not reality, because the gas won't be there to do it with. I think, in my opinion, you're better off sheltering in place, having your home set up to where that can be your home base, where you can stay. Now, you might not be able to stay there full term because people might show up to take what you have. That's 100% true. When that happens, you have to be prepared to leave. So if you have the means to set up secondary locations to retreat to, that's great. If you have some sort of underground shelter, such as a bomb shelter or something, or a storm shelter that you have built at your home, to where if a tornado comes or something, you can go down into the shelter and be safe. And you have that stocked with food and water, that's a great thing. You can always retreat down there and lock yourself in if you need to. But you need to realize that that's kind of a last-ditch effort thing. That's a last resort. Because once you do that, you're kind of stuck down there. It's going to be a long time before you can come back up. But basically what you're going to need to do is survive long enough for all the zombies to die. If these are infected people, it won't take long. really a matter of weeks should be all that a real zombie apocalypse would really last. Because those people, although they might be infected with the disease and they might be out of their minds, they are still human beings, essentially. And they are still subject to the rule of threes that I spoke about in the beginning of this episode. So 3 days without water, they're still going to die, just like me or you. So if you can last out that amount of time, then you might be okay. So I would say give it a good week for the zombies to die, because they'll get some sort of water value from drinking your blood. You know, from when they're eating your body, basically. And there's going to be blood mixed in with that, and they're going to get some sort of water value from that, to where it will hydrate them somewhat. Not very well, but a little bit. Enough to keep them alive for a little while, maybe. Give it a week or two for all the zombies to definitely die. And then give it another 3 or 4 weeks for the country to kind of get itself back on track, and for people to take charge again and restore order. And then you might have a good shot at getting back to normal life, depending on how bad it was. If it was really bad, then it might take quite a while longer. And the people that take charge might not be the same kind of people we have in charge now. It might not be the rule of law and order. It might be a dictator that rises up, that takes over everything. Who knows? You know, we're dealing with a hypothetical situation here, so it's hard to tell, but it's going to be dangerous. But you're going to want to survive as long as you possibly can. So I would say stay in your home. Make your home your shelter. Fortify it. Make sure you have plenty of water, plenty of food, plenty of supplies, and plan on, if this happens, being there. Stash supplies at a secondary location, to where if you need to retreat from your home, you can go to that secondary location. Whether it is a trailer somewhere, or a cabin somewhere, or whatever. Have a secondary location where you have supplies also, so if you need to leave the first place, you got another place to go. Pack yourself a bug out bag. Like Old Boy said earlier on, I did a video on the YouTube channel all about bug out bags, what to put in them, how to use them, all that kind of stuff. A bug out bag can absolutely save your life, because what that is a mini version of your home. It has all the different supplies that you have in your home. It's a condensed version of that you can put on your back and leave with, so that you have food, you have water, you have medicine, you have, hygiene items, you have weapons, you have everything you need on your back. Have that ready. It should be ready right now. That way, if something happens and you have to leave, you can grab it and head out the door. I have a bug out bag in my home. I have one in my vehicle. I have my shelter in place here at my house, my compound. I have everything I need. I also have a secondary, a third, and a fourth location that all have supplies. Be prepared. God willing, we'll never have a zombie apocalypse. But I'll tell you what we absolutely will have. We will have tornadoes. We will have severe hurricanes. We will have floods, and we will have really bad blizzards. All of those things we absolutely will have. We have them every year. When those things take place, you will have everything you need to survive. Whether you are snowed in for 3 days or 3 weeks, it won't matter. You'll have what you need. You'll be fine. A lot of people look down on preppers, and they look down on people like me who prepare, because they say, oh, they're crazy. Oh, yeah, watch out for the zombie apocalypse. They make fun of you. But if you really think about it, look at Katrina. Okay, look at Houston. Look at Florida almost every year. Texas as well. They get hit with these massive hurricanes. And you have people wandering around with no food, no water, no shelter, no nothing. If they just would have prepared, they would have been in a lot better situation than they are now. Now, sometimes you have a flood that comes in and it soaks your supplies. But if you have vacuum sealed your stuff, then they are sealed in a bag, so the water can't get to them. So you still have the ability to take your supplies with you if you need to leave. You got to be prepared, people. I'm telling you, seriously, because you never know what's going to happen. If something like an EMP was to happen, probably 90% of this country would die within a year, because they're just not prepared. They don't have what they need. Think about this and ask yourself this question. This is the last part I'll say, and then we'll do our shout-outs. If something was to take place tomorrow, let's say an EMP happens, an electromagnetic pulse. This can be caused by several different things. One of the most popular and probably the most likely scenarios is somebody detonates a nuclear device in our atmosphere. And that causes an electromagnetic pulse which will fry all of the electronics, unless they are in Faraday cages, which means nothing works anymore. We go back to the 1800s, basically. None of your electronic stuff works. If that was to happen to you, and you could not go down to the store and pick up dinner, or run through the drive-thru at McDonald's, if your car no longer worked, how long could you survive on what you have at your home? If you could not turn on your faucet and get water to come out of it because water was no longer being pumped because there was no more electricity, how long could you survive on what you have right now? Now, if the answer to that question was either I don't know or a very small amount of time, then you got some work to do. You should be prepared to survive at least 3 weeks to a month on what you have at your home. If you do not have enough food and water and supplies to last a month, then you got to get busy. Now, some people, like myself, go a little bit overboard on it. I have enough for my family to survive for years. And I have the capability at my compound to grow my own food. I have orchards. I have everything I need here. I have a well, and I also have a cistern that is hooked up to my roof to where rain will fall on my roof and go down into the cistern. So I have everything I need. I am a self-contained unit here. Not everybody is that lucky or that prepared. And quite possibly, I will never have to use my supplies. Everything I've put back will last my entire lifetime. That's wonderful. Now, you might not have the same financial means that I have to provide that. You also may not have the knowledge that I have to provide that. But that can be remedied. All you have to do is learn and prepare. And the most important thing about stocking your food, make sure you stock what you eat. It doesn't do you no good to stock up a bunch of stuff that you're not going to eat. Now with that, I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy to do his shout outs, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Thank you, brother. I want to give a shout out to all our listeners on ParaX. Thank you for getting us over 1,000 subscribers in the last 3 months on James Hershey's YouTube page. And you guys want to keep listening to all our old shows and our newer shows, just subscribe to his page. I want to give a shout out to E. Christopher Reyes. He's the author of In His Name, volume 1 through 6, and he's actually making 7 next year. If you guys want to check out his books, it's on Amazon, or you can go to Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble. I can't say the word. You know what I'm trying to say. Or Kindle, and you can download his books or buy them on there on hardcover or paperback. He's a really good writer. He talks about the misquotations of the Bible and other things. You guys might want to check that out if you can. And I want to give a shout out to my fiance Tara. And thank you guys. I love you guys. Misfits, Sugar Ladies, and Demon Hunters. Have a great night. Love you all.
I want to thank you guys for all listening. I hope that you learned something on this episode. I hope that it made you think. You know, the zombie apocalypse is a fun little thing to talk about. It's an interesting and fun exercise in planning and strategy. But I hope that it made you think a little bit about how prepared you really are. The good news is the knowledge is out there to be learned, guys. It really is. I have some of it on my channel. If you want to go to the channel, it's youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's the YouTube channel. It has all our shows on it. And I also do a lot of different survival and prepping videos and stuff like that on there because I'm into that kind of stuff. So I teach you how to do a lot of different things like that. And I'm going to be putting more videos on the channel as we go. So you'll get to learn a bunch of different things. So go on over to the channel, like it, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It's completely free. You don't have to pay nothing for it. But definitely start saving something back because a little bit is better than nothing. And it always helps to be prepared. With that, I'm going to say goodnight. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. And until we speak again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. We love you. Bye-bye.